Ruben Amorim and Manchester United, away at Anfield, have pulled off the result of the season so far, deservedly getting all 3 points at the expense of Ten Hag's cousin Arne Slot. With this result, United are only 3 points behind Liverpool after literally having the hardest confirmed start to the season, and who knows where we would be if we had been more clinical against Arsenal and Fulham. Either way, this video is about how United were able to do the unthinkable against the reigning Premier League champions, and why Ruben Amorim deserves a round of applause for his approach. Now that is exactly what I'm talking about for Manchester United. I have to give credit to Ruben Amorim, the players, the attitude, the approach, the execution was spot on. It was a game where honestly we rode our luck something fierce a little bit in the first and a lot of it in the second half, but I think the determination, the fighting spirit, everything, the embodiment of what it means to be a Manchester United player, the players showed today. For once, these United players actually fought until the very end and grinded for a result, even in the face of adversity, because Liverpool were piling on the pressure time and time again, getting chances, but United stayed steadfast. I just love the fact that now we have a goalkeeper who can actually instill confidence into the rest of the team. We actually play with more confidence now that we have a goalkeeper that's not gonna make a mistake or make an error or make players have to think twice in all areas of the pitch on whether or not I should pass the ball back to this guy or will he make the save to keep us in the game. Lamens is a secure keeper. He makes our defense secure. I can see that the players are starting to take more risks because they know that they have somebody behind them who is secure, who is solid. For once, the players finally showed grit and determination and passion. I know this is the type of fixture that warrants those types of emotions and thought process, but for United recently against Liverpool, it's been anything but. And to score a goal so early the way that we did, emphasize what Ruben Amorim really wants, I believe. Having these fast starts, but capitalizing on the fast starts so that we can then be able to dictate the proceedings. I think the fact that we scored so early meant that Liverpool had to adjust, had to do something different, had to constantly change and try and attack. And eventually in the second half, they threw so many bodies forward. But we'll get to that. Now, before I get into this breakdown, I do want to hold my hands up and say, I've been super critical of certain players like Harry Maguire and Casemiro. When I saw them in the starting 11, I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked. I didn't think that Ruben Amorim would have risked Casemiro after playing 2 90-minute games and during the international break and then flying back to England. And I didn't think that he would use Harry Maguire in this type of game where it could turn into a grudge match. But both of these players showed great professionalism, great positioning, awareness. They were actually for once on point and on par and working together. Maguire with his aerial ability really helped us today, especially when it came to winning second balls. Casemiro's positioning, his awareness, he played a simple game today, but that simple game really elevated our overall game. It allowed players, key players like Bruno, Cunha, Ahmad, and Mbeumo to find the space that they need, knowing that they had the cover, security. I was just overall impressed by these two players in particular because those were the big talking points before the game, especially with Ruben Amorim's selection in such a huge, monumental, marquee matchup. Everybody wants certain players to play. But Ruben Amorim said it himself. Certain players and certain characteristics fit games better than others. If you don't believe me, here's what he said.
Sometimes you have a player in the good moment, but the characteristic of the game is not for him. Sometimes the characteristics of the game change the way you are going to approach the games.
What I'm gonna do is actually separate this breakdown by first and second half. I think the first half showed how dangerous United were in transition, how well we did by going direct, not really trying to play around the back, and how good our defensive shape was. It was compact, and the way that we were able to kind of frustrate Liverpool in their build-up, I think honestly forced Arne Slot into changing his tactics so many different times that his players even didn't really know what to do at certain moments. We'll get into that, but I just want to note and just talk about the importance of certain players in their positions. Amad Diallo was excellent on the right-hand side, and Mbeumo. Their link-up is starting to, their chemistry is starting to develop, and it's working to dangerous effect. But Bruno Fernandes was so important in the midfield, just picking passes out, and his range really helped us stretch Liverpool. Cunha was also a huge factor in the game. Mason Mount defensively was good. Let's get into the video, guys. Now, every fan, analyst, pundit alike will definitely talk about the fact that Manchester United played a much more direct game against Liverpool. It was very obvious from the beginning that Senne Lammens was just going to boot the ball forward, not even try to play around out of the back, because Liverpool's high press and attacking intent is very carnivorous. They're very intentional about trying to win the ball back high up the pitch. So winning those knockdowns, winning the second balls was an emphasis for Manchester United. They've been one of the better teams in the Premier League to do it this season. And it worked to great effect. The first goal was a prime example of that. Getting the ball to Sonny Lamans, him playing it direct, Van Dijk winning the first header, Maguire winning the second header, Van Dijk winning the third header, and Manchester United settling, winning the ball back from the Van Dijk header. What I love about this play the most is the proactiveness of Bryan Mbeumo. Yes, Bruno Fernandes does well to get the ball out to Ahmad. Ahmad does well to drive into the space. But the fact that Mbeumo gets clattered in between, or not in between, but he gets clattered by McAllister and Van Dijk, immediately springs up and runs into the space, that is what I'm talking about. That is what we need constantly, every single game, whether we're on the front foot or whether we're trying to counterattack. Having willing runners, having players that are willing to run into that space, and then finish with quality. But before we get to the finish, I do want to talk about the fact that Van Dijk is really at fault for this goal. A lot of people are talking about the fact that, yes, Mbeumo's running into that space. Konate should be covering, but Konate is actually occupied by Cunha and Mbeumo. He doesn't know who to mark. And Van Dijk is kind of giving a lazy handoff, saying, hey, yeah, you mark him. It actually reminds me a little bit of, I think it was the Burnley game, the second goal that we conceded, where Diogo Dalot and De Ligt were kind of mixed matching their position. And there was a half-hearted attempt to tell Dalot to go mark his man. And because of this, we conceded a goal. I think the fact that Van Dijk looks over his shoulder and checks that Mbeumo is making the run into space, he should just automatically run back and try to cover it. I know that Konate is really supposed to be in that situation covering that area, but the fact that Cunha makes his run, then kind of halts his run, makes Konate second guess. And because Mbeumo is just full head of steam running into the space, he can't get there in time. And what a finish. What a way to score at Anfield in a high pressure situation on your weak foot. This is the profile and a little bit of things that we talked about in Mbeumo in preseason before everything settled. How he's really able to score with both feet in a variety of positions, in a variety of ways. Excellent finish from Mbeumo. And like I said earlier, perfect way to start the match. Perfect way to, in a way, dictate tempo and dictate the proceedings, because starting quick, shell-shocking your opponent is going to force them to now try and do something different to get back into the game. And as you'll see, and as I'll talk about, United did a really good job of containing Liverpool when it mattered the most. It didn't work to full effect the entire match, and that's something I want to point out. While United were good and executed their game plan, honestly, to perfection, it still doesn't mean that Liverpool wasn't attacking. Still doesn't mean that Liverpool wasn't breaking us down in key areas of the pitch, bypassing our press. There were times where we got the press wrong, but the times where we got the press right, or the times where we sat off and were compact, it really frustrated Liverpool. So the first defensive action that I want to talk about came right after our goal, right after the kickoff. When Liverpool restarted the game, we pressed up, we pushed up, we were high. Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro were marking McAllister and Gravenberch, making it difficult for Liverpool to play out effectively, especially straight off the kickoff, when they're a bit shell-shocked, not really understanding how they just conceded to Manchester United. I think this is the right approach. But then when Liverpool got into their settled possession, Manchester United dropped off, made it very difficult for Liverpool to play through the middle, especially because McAllister and Szoboszlai were playing almost as 10s, leaving Gravenberch as the lone midfielder, the lone playmaker to try and pick out passes. The only problem is, because Liverpool had committed so many players into the same positions, Gakpo's on the left, McAllister's right next to him, Salah's on the right, Szoboszlai's right next to him, Kirkesh is right behind them. There were too many players in those positions, and Manchester United were able to just compress, compact, and force Liverpool to constantly recycle the ball. This is what I saw, honestly, against Arsenal in the first game. I saw this against West Ham in preseason. This is what Ruben Amorim wants to do to frustrate teams who like to break teams down through the middle with high-tempo passing, and I enjoyed it. I think when the players execute this defensive plan perfectly, it looks good. It makes other teams look, honestly, not as good as they really are. And for us, that's huge, because being able to frustrate Liverpool, forcing them to throw bodies forward, really helped us as well when we tried to counterattack. Now, at some point, Ruben Amorim identified that Liverpool wanted to solely play through Ryan Gravenberch. He was the one linking the defense to the offense, and because Liverpool had committed so many players forward, he was the only one in midfield that could actually get on the ball and dictate proceedings. The thing is, if we allowed him too much time on the ball, he would be able to pick a pass and Liverpool would break us down. The thing is, Ruben Amorim told Bruno Fernandes, I want you to go and trigger the press on Ryan Gravenberch. Whenever he's in a pocket of space or whenever he's in an island, I want you to go and I want you to man mark him. I want you to follow him around the pitch. Limit Liverpool's ability to get the ball to their best playmaker and force them to go out wide. Force them to play into our hands, because Mbeumo would trigger a press on the right, Cunha would trigger a press on the left, or Mount, or whoever it was at the time, because those players did love to rotate throughout the entire game, and it would force them to go wide and recycle, Liverpool was still an excellent team, so they were able at times to break us down, able to get through our lines, get through our press, but overall, we were able to frustrate them to a point where the best chance they had in the first half, I would say, was the Gakpo chance, where we actually gave the ball away and allowed them to counter us. So I thought the defensive shape was excellent. I thought the amount of times that we pressed high, but the amount of times that we sat back kind of confused Liverpool. It made them think twice about how they wanted to build up. There were times, however, like I said, where this approach left us wide open. There was a time where Gravenberch had free reign to just push up the pitch. Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro just did not engage. And because of this, he was able to play a ball directly through us. 1-2 passes, Gakpo's in. So with situations like that where we still need to be a little bit more assured, we need to be almost perfect in our pressing. We can't press one moment and then not press the next, because giving up space to dangerous players like Gravenberch, giving up space to dangerous players like Florian Wirtz in the second half, it really was our undoing. Allowing them to get time on the ball or allowing them to play quick passes really broke us down a lot, especially in the second half. Now, I'm not being negative. I thought United played a brilliant game. I just think the narrative in the first half was completely different to the narrative in the second half. Obviously, because Liverpool had to come out and attack in the second half. But it was good for Manchester United defensively to maintain that shape, frustrate Liverpool, and then counter and exploit the space that they left them behind by once again going more direct. Speaking of going direct, because Liverpool were just so spread wide open, like the space that was left between Van Dijk and Kirkesh, or Konate and Connor Bradley at some points, was honestly ridiculous for a team that is such high quality and high level and have a good coach in Arne Slot. You would think that this would be something that Slot would tell his players to constantly avoid, but there is a lot of space that's left because Liverpool are so they're so attacking. They're always looking to get the ball back. They're always looking to play that high line. And I know that their press is a little bit different than Jurgen Klopp's version. This one is not working as well because teams are able to exploit that. Teams are able to sit compact, counter them, and then when Liverpool really try to press high, teams can just go long and win knockdowns because Liverpool players are not in the correct positions. They're not close enough to each other. And I think you'll hear that from a lot of analysts and pundits. I thought United did great, just playing direct, being able to exploit the space left and behind. I think Amad Diallo was just immense on the right-hand side, taking on Kirkesh. Obviously, for the first goal, he drove into that space. There was a chance, I think around the 20th minute, where he was taking on Kirkesh. He cut inside, and Bruno Fernandes has to finish those chances. Other than that miss from Bruno, I thought he played an excellent game. There's nobody else in this team that can play the passes that he does. There's nobody else in this team that can play those passes. The goal that Harry Maguire scored, and we'll talk about it a little later, there's nobody in this team that can play a perfectly weighted pass to the back post like that, like Bruno Fernandes. And I'm just glad that Bruno was able to have such a good impact on this game, such as Matheus Cunha, such as Mason Mount, and such as our dangerous duo of Mbeumo and Amad on the right-hand side. In the second half, Liverpool decided to basically just go gung-ho and throw the fridge and kitchen sink directly at Manchester United. There was so much pressure that Man United had to contend with. It was constant. Liverpool were able to throw so many bodies forward. This picture right here will basically prove my point. Look at how many players Liverpool had committed into the box. I think they actually outnumber us in the box in this photo. And this was a chance that Salah honestly should have scored. And in the second half, I think that was the narrative. Liverpool just missed so many clear-cut chances. Maybe some more than others weren't as clear-cut, but that Salah chance definitely was. Cody Gakpo's header around the 87th minute was, that's just like, I'm so shocked that he missed. But sometimes you need a little bit of lady luck. And United in this game were blessed by God. That's the only way I can put it, because the amount of chances that Liverpool missed, the amount of chances that they squandered, and the way that we were able to, even in the face of adversity, conceding that 1-1 equalizer by Gakpo, we were still able to go forward and we were still able to press Liverpool and I don't know. I'm just glad that United did not sit back and accept the fact that, okay, we could take a draw. We actually decided to go forward. We defended valiantly. The fact that Liverpool were throwing so many bodies forward, it was creating issues for us, especially when we made substitutions. I thought his substitutions, Amorim, were great. I just do think that certain players did get exposed defensively. Dorgu was getting exposed by Frimpong. That header that I mentioned with Gakpo was a direct result of Frimpong beating Dorgu down the wing and putting a cross in. Not to hate on Dorgu, I think he plays the role well. I just think that there's still that gulf in quality that we can see is clear between Liverpool and Manchester United. But the fact that the players' determination, the spirit, the fighting spirit, the togetherness got them over the line, that is what is more important. That's why I'm not too concerned with the XG. I'm not concerned with all of that. I'm more concerned with if these players are actually giving everything to try and grind a result. And I think today they showed that with great effect. I'm sure they can really pat themselves on the back with that performance and look to the Brighton game to try and build upon this. The Brighton game is the next important step. To me, I really feel as if we don't get a good result against Brighton, it diminishes this result. Obviously, in the moment, beating Liverpool, there's nothing better than this feeling, and we're going to be riding this high for some time. But can we be consistent? Can we show what we did against Liverpool today and take on Brighton and actually beat them? We're at home. We're at Old Trafford. This shouldn't be a game where we're always constantly worried and a little scared about the final result. This should be a time where United can build upon this one, get a third victory in a row, then get a fourth victory in a row, then going to Spurs, telling yourselves, you know what, we've notched up a bunch of good results. We've played to the best of our ability. We've beaten teams the way that we should be beating them. We're scoring good goals. We can go to Tottenham and we can get a result and we can suddenly find ourselves high up the table. So that's just my thinking. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below when it comes to that, because if we had been a little bit more clinical against Arsenal and Fulham, we'd be second place right now. We'd be right behind Arsenal. Or maybe even tied with Arsenal. So let me know what you guys think about that whole situation in the comments below. All in all, this is the perfect result for Amorim and United to build a platform and honestly build upon the rest of the season. With the fact that United still are just playing one game every single week, take this result, build upon it in training, use what you learned in this game to take into the next opponent and the next opponent and the next opponent. Now we understand Ruben Amorim's thinking a little bit better with his selection. He understands that certain games require certain personnel. It's not always about who looks the best in the formation. It's about who will do the best in the specific game that we're playing. I think he got it wrong against Brentford by playing Maguire in a high line. But today against Liverpool, when we're compact and we're supposed to be sitting deep, Maguire was the perfect choice. And I have to give Ruben Amorim a lot of credit. I don't think he gets a lot of the credit, obviously. He gets a lot of hate. And he acknowledges that and he admits that. He just wants to move forward and he wants to continue to see this team develop and grow into the potential and the team that they should be. And I'm backing him. I've always backed him. You guys know I've backed him since day one. And I'm excited to see how we can progress from this. Brighton is going to be huge. I'm going to make a preview video for that. Let me know what you guys think. Just overall, what are your feelings, your thoughts in the comments below? Sorry for the delay of this video again. I know I say sorry a lot, but I do want you guys to know that I'm thinking about y'all, just making these videos, getting these videos out, talking to you guys, engaging with you guys. So I'll be talking to you guys a lot more in the near future. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. As always, God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Peace.